All right, today I'm going to share with you two massive factors that create your success, that lead to your success. And it's the last episode that I'm doing before Christmas, and so I want to keep it light, but also inspirational. And this is something that is useful 365 days per year. And so let's go ahead and dive into this. So this was actually inspired by listening to a Mike Mandel podcast. I've been catching up on some past episodes, and one of his influences, like a lot of people who are involved in change work, is Tony Robbins, right? And so this is kind of a mashup of what Mike got from Tony and what he was sharing from his own stuff, as well as, my own insights and reflections on these different factors. And so first things first here. One of the massive factors that creates your success is what you imagine. What you imagine, okay? So what you are able to, what you're capable of imagining is going to largely dictate what you are able to do in life, what you're able to translate into reality. Now, we often think about this in terms of imagining something in the future. And in fact, in selling, there's this whole idea of future pacing, where if you can get someone to imagine a future in which the desire that you're offering to fulfill has come true, then they are more likely to respond to your offer. And of course, that's important in marketing and persuasion and selling. It's also important in change work to get someone to actually do the work of personal change. It also is critically important for you to be able to imagine, okay, so for example, when I discovered copywriting, when I discovered direct response copywriting in spring of 2005, I suddenly was able to imagine myself as this person who would be successful because of this skill of copywriting. And I recognized that I wasn't instantly going to become like some great copywriter. And if you believe that about yourself, maybe you should disabuse yourself of the notion, instead focus on the type of work that you are going to do to grow your skills as a copywriter. But you still ultimately do need to imagine this thing that is going to be true about yourself in the future. And so when I realized, okay, I'm going to become this direct response copywriter, I even realized I'm going to become this freelance direct response copywriter. And so I imagined this future scenario that I wanted to be true, and it came true, right? It came true through time because I was able to hold that image in my mind as if it were already true now. Like I was able to imagine myself, I am this direct response copywriter. I am this successful direct response copywriter. But then I was also able to, while imagining this future state, I was able to also recognize what I needed to do in the moment. So imagining a future state as if it was true is going to lead to all sorts of potential success for you. So I use that as an example because it's very broad, and I know a lot of people in my audience are in a place where they're trying to imagine themselves as a copywriter, right? And also at the same time, I use this all the time. Like I imagine some training that I want to create as being true. I imagine some offer I want to do as being true. I imagine some funnel I'm going to create for a client or for my own marketing as being true. I imagine whatever, right? I imagine an entire business that I want to have created. I imagine it as true, and I then am able to take from that imaginary vision the details that are going to be required in order for it to be true. And actually, it can be a great planning exercise to say, what has to be true in order for this thing that I want to be real to be real? And you just come up with what has to be true, and then that's going to dictate some of the steps that you need to take to make it real. So we've been talking a lot about your future imagination, right? And it's critically important. You are also imagining things about your present. You are imagining things about your past. And so let's go with present, right? So if you are imagining that right now you are not capable of achieving whatever goal, that is something that you are imagining, right? You can try a particular task in pursuit of achieving that goal, and it can get a result and you can observe the result. But in any kind of interpretation around what that means for your capability is simply that. It's an imagined interpretation, right? And so you can imagine, I am not capable of achieving this goal, or you can imagine, I am figuring out the solution to this problem, right? I am figuring out how to achieve this goal. I am learning how to achieve this goal. So if you imagine your present state as a resourceful state that is based on learning and growth, as opposed to your present state as being a fixed state that's based on having an identity as someone who is or is not able to do the things that you wish that you could do, then you are going to have different approaches, and you're likely to end up with very different results. So imagining your present state as someone who is resourceful and able to learn and grow and accomplish things through work and effort, that is an incredibly resourceful imagination exercise, right? And the more that you imagine these things to be true, the more you will experience them as true in your life. Now, you also imagine things about your past. Your entire past at this point only exists in your imagination. And we call it memory, but every time a memory is recalled, it's actually changed slightly or significantly. And we can only imagine things about our past, and we cannot actually experience our past again, right? We can experience our imagination. But the reality about what that past was at this point exists in the past only, like it existed. And so you can imagine anything about your past, right? And I'm not saying that you should just like ignore things like trauma or something like that, right? But you can bring up things in your past, in your imagination, and you can also imagine how those things are impacting you right now and what type of constraints they have to put on your life right now. And so anything about your past that you do not want to put a constraint on your life, you can imagine a scenario in which that thing does not hold you back, right? You can imagine, or you can choose to imagine, like, you can imagine yourself like in chains tied to that thing in your past, and that thing in the past is vivid and large, and it's in front of you, and it's this big terrifying thing, right? And you can imagine the chains that it has you in, so you can't escape the terror. Or you can imagine it as this like small and fading old photograph that is that doesn't have any chains, right? That doesn't constrain you in any way, and it's something that you can look back on and you can remember maybe for the lessons that experience gave you, and you can acknowledge that there are certain resources and certain lessons that come from going through hardships, that come from dealing with difficulties. And at the same time, that thing that happened, that's this fading memory, does not have to define you, right? And these are different ways that you can imagine the same thing that may have actually happened to you in the past, because at this point, all you're doing is imagining that thing in the past. And I don't want you to just like stuff down anything that you haven't dealt with, that you haven't come face to face with, that you haven't been able to process. But at the same time, like, I don't want these things to hold you back in some big way when they do not have to. So what you imagined has a huge impact on your success. And then in the context of all of this imagining, right? In the context of all of this imagining, all of that imagining does not actually change the world. What changes the world and what changes your world is what you decide. What you decide to do with your future vision, what you decide to do with your present vision, what you decide to do with your past vision. And you set an intention for, especially going forward, what you want to achieve, and in this moment, what you want to do right now. And so you set an intention for what you want to be true. And then you have to decide on actions. You decide on actions that you need to take. And these actions can take place in kind of two contexts. One of those is immediate action. So, for example, if you want to maybe have a better network of people in an industry, there could be an immediate action of booking a ticket to an upcoming event. Or there could be an immediate action of emailing a particular person, or there could be an immediate action, like for me, I've been inviting people on my podcast, right? And that's an immediate action that you can take tied to this intention of, I want a stronger network in this particular market, right? And then there's extended plan actions, which is, okay, going back to the thing that I mentioned in terms of, if you want something to be true, if you want something to be complete, you can come up with a criteria list. I will know that this is complete when X, Y, and Z are done, right? And so you come up with this extended plan of the actions that you need to take one after the other in order to achieve the goal, or not necessarily one after the other, but the different actions that need to be complete in whatever order is appropriate in order to complete the goal. Right? And so you imagine the reality, you imagine this thing that you want to be true. You set an intention to actually make it true. You make that decision, right? Of what you're going to actually work towards achieving. And you translate that intention into specific action plans in order to get you closer and closer to the goal. And if you want to increase the effectiveness of this, I have found, and I'm sure that you have found too, that if there is a due date associated with it, it's significantly more likely to get done. And so you make a decision to accomplish something, but if you don't put some kind of a due date on it, then you are less likely to ever get around to taking action. And so imagine what you want to be true, make a decision about what you're going to do about it, and importantly, what you're going to do about it when. And when you do that on a consistent basis, you can, change careers, you can accomplish whatever career goals, you can start a business, you can launch new offers, you can launch new promotions, you can achieve incredible things in the world by imagining something that you want to be true and then making a decision about how you are going to be in the world, how you are going to act in the world, what actions you're going to take in order to bring that thing to fruition. So my call to action to you as we finish up this episode is to ask yourself, how can you use this? How can you use this? How can you go about imagining what you want to be true and making decisions about how you are going to make sure that that happens? How can you use that? Certainly leave a comment below if you have anything you'd like to add. Also, you can like this episode and make sure that you're subscribed here. I do truly appreciate you for subscribing. It helps the show grow and it helps me continue to deliver all this value to you. And if you do want to go deeper into these topics, I do have a couple trainings inside the BTMS Insiders training library, which is like Netflix for copywriting, marketing, and entrepreneurship training. These specific trainings are training your subconscious success mechanism and small work, big productivity. And both of those are linked in the description with this episode. So I'm Roy Furr. This is Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Every day and every episode, I'm here helping you grow and increase your business, increase your career success. And I will catch you again in the next episode. I'll see you soon. Bye. Thank you once again for tuning in to this daily episode of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Remember, check out the links with this episode for even more value. Now make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and engage in every way you can to keep this show going and growing and delivering daily value to you. I'll catch you soon for your next big breakthrough.